As I was scrolling through Facebook this morning, I saw a thread that was started by a person looking for board games that were relatively quick to explain and a first-time player could easily understand and engage the strategy. I thought that was excellent inspiration for a board game list video, and I decided to put one together. However, this list was challenging to me, and here's why. First of all, every game on this list has to be thematic. Thematic games are what really draw people in. It's the thematic games that offer a story and a problem that compels us to solve and play. By comparison, abstract games are usually simpler, but they aren't as inviting. However, thematic games usually bring in a little bit more complexity because they have to add a few rules to add substance to the theme. The key is finding a game that has just enough of a theme to draw people in without it overcomplicating the rules. Secondly, it has to be games that I actually like. Now, that probably doesn't surprise you. Of course, I'm going to make a video about games that I like, but the reason that makes things difficult is because in a vacuum, I would rather play complex games. Now, I have young kids and I play a lot of simpler family games with them. In fact, I just made the list of top 10 family games, which are also very simple and easy to explain. If you want to check out those as well, I will leave a link. There are no repeats in that list and this list. But anyway, this list has to be games that I like, which means these are simple games that even a player who prefers complex games wouldn't mind playing. Now, before I get into the list, go to theperfectboardgame.com, scroll down and take a look at the categories there. You can actually organize games by different categories, including games that are simple and easy to explain, and you can even look for deals on Amazon updated every single day. That's my personal site. My job as a software developer, I just happen to like games, so I built this for enthusiasts like me. I hope that it is a helpful tool for finding great games and getting good deals for them. Anyway, with the criteria understood, let's go ahead and get started. The first game on my list is Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns is one of those games where all players play at the same time. The players do take turns being the architect who picks a cube and places it on a grid. When the cubes on the grid fit certain formations, that player can build a building that fits into the footprint of the cubes. And in so doing, their grid gradually fills up, and at the end of the game, they can score all of the buildings based on the criteria specified on the card. It's very simple, it's very quick, but it can be extremely challenging because you're not just thinking about what you want, but you have to plan to accommodate the cubes that other players are going to pick. And if you're paying attention, you can watch what other people are trying to build and make conclusions about, okay, that person's going to want a blue cube, so maybe I should try to build this building because that's going to involve blue cubes. But oh no, they're probably going to want to get brown because oh shoot, well what am I going to get? Then I should probably get. No one's going to get gray. You know, you're making these decisions constantly. It's a challenging game. It is definitely a game that an experienced player will beat a first-time player. There's no element of luck. There's no dice rolling. The strategy, however, is very easy to understand, even for people playing the game the first time through. And after playing it once, the players will probably immediately want to play again. And the game, it takes as long to teach as I just taught you. That game is Tiny Towns. The next game is in a bit of an unusual category. Some people would call it a party game, but I think it's both more thematic and strategic than most other party games that I've ever played. The game is Trap Words. In Trap Words, two teams are racing to discover a treasure in a dungeon. And at the end of the dungeon, they have to beat the final boss. And they get through it room by solving riddles. These riddles are guessing word puzzles, like taboo or code names. The other player on your team is trying to give you hints to help you guess a word. So what makes this game any different? Well, in Trap Words, if you're the person giving the hints, you don't know what words you can't say. It's not like Taboo, where you have a list and you know you have to avoid those words. You don't know what you can't say. Now, how does that work? Well, at the beginning of the round, before the hints are given, both teams exchange their keyword card with each other, and your opponents, looking at the word that you need to deliver, they write down the words that you can't say, and they keep that a secret. They give the card back to you. You know that they know you. They know how you are thinking. They're trying to trap you. That's why it's called trap words. You don't know what they wrote down, but you know they wrote down something. So you have to think about, okay, what words do they think I'm going to say? I should not say those words. Meanwhile, the team is saying, okay, well, he's on to us. He knows that we think that he's going to say those words. What's he going to try to say instead? Oh, maybe he's going to try to say these. Like, there is this back and forth that's happening constantly as you try to adjust to one another, predicting what words you think they might say and writing them down as traps. So as you go through room by room by room, in the first room, there's one trap word. In the second room, there's two trap words. And it goes on like that until you get to the boss, and then usually the boss, there's some final condition on victory. And the whole thing is a race like that. The game is brilliant. It's so much more strategic because each game is really broken down into two parts. The first part, trying to trap your opponents, and the second part, trying to deliver a hint without triggering any traps that your opponents wrote. It's a brilliant strategy game, I think. It is a party game. Yes, it's played in teams, but it's got the theme. The pieces are beautiful. I highly recommend the game, Trap Words. The next game is Isle of Skye. Isle of Skye is a tile-laying game, and the objective is to get the most points by arranging your tiles in such a way that certain conditions are satisfied. The part about the game that adds replayability is the thing that makes you points changes from game to game. In one game it might be sheep give you points, in another game it might be the arrangement of the tiles, or it might be the roads. It could be a number of things. So as a result, all of the tiles have a variety of different icons on them, and at the beginning of every round, and there are only 5 rounds, you are able to draw 3 from a bag. Now with these 3, you set prices on the tiles. You get to eliminate 1. After everybody has secretly set a price on their tiles, they are revealed, and players in turn order get to buy the tiles from each other at the price that was set. If somebody buys your tile, you get to keep their money. If they don't buy your tile, you have to buy it for the price that you set on it. That's all the rules. I mean, after you buy the tiles, you place it, and then you have another round. 3 more tiles, set the price of the tiles, reveal, everybody buys tiles, place the tile, do it again, keep scoring based on whatever comes up. It's actually very swift and easy to play. I've never had a person who struggles with the rules before, but the strategy is through the roof here. I mean, it's very interesting to see how your opponents play, because even though the scoring mechanism is public, the way that people value different things is going to become very clear. And you might realize that one person is setting things very cheap, or somebody else is very expensive, and that's all going to balance out. The person who's setting expensive prices, because no one's going to buy their stuff, they're going to buy their stuff, they're going to run out of money. The person whose tiles are very cheap, they're going to have all of their tiles be sold first, and they're going to end up with more money, which is going to give them more power, and so they're probably going to make higher prices later. There's a nice balancing mechanism there. The replayability is fantastic. It's so quick to explain. The game is Isle of Skye. The next game on my list is Sagrada. Sagrada is a game that has become much more popular over the last several years, and it may be a game you've already heard of before, but I've actually tagged on another bonus game just in case Sagrada is not new to you. In Sagrada, players are building a beautiful stained glass window, and they receive a card that has the design of the stained glass window, and it's built out of dice. So every round, dice are rolled, and then they're drafted. So on your turn, when the dice come to you, you choose a die, and you put it into your window. And that's all you do. The dice actually go around once. They come back around, you get to take another die, you put it in your window. That's the end of that round. More dice are rolled, you just repeat. The strategy, though, is being able to pick die, both considering probability and scoring, that will fit into certain requirements on your page and maximize scoring mechanisms. Now, the game is relatively more abstract. I do really like the cards. I do like that they have tools. I think that it actually lends itself really well to the theme of stained glass window building, but then that theme is pretty abstract, right? So if Sagrada is not the game for you, or if you've heard of Sagrada before, you have a copy of Sagrada before, another similar game that I really like, and it's mechanically very similar but with a much stronger theme, is Role Player. And in Role Player, it's a lot the same with dice and drafting dice, but you're building a role-playing character, and that character gets items, and it seems like there's a lot, they have a race and a class. It's very similar gameplay, a little bit stronger theme. Both games are great, and very simple to explain. Sagrada is a little bit easier to explain. Role Player has a little bit stronger theme. And finally, the last game on this list is Cryptid. In Cryptid, you and your opponents are all researchers who are trying to find a legendary beast called the Cryptid. You all have done your research and the backstory of the game, and you know some piece of information about where the Cryptid lives. The only challenge here is that you want all the notoriety of finding the beast to yourself. So you want to keep the information that you have very secret, yet you need the information that your fellow researchers have done in order to track it down yourself. So there is a big give and take between giving just a little bit of information in order to get some in return so that you can be the first person to find the Cryptid. Now, the gameplay, again, is very simple. At the beginning, every person is given a secret piece of information. Together, everyone's information is sufficient to find exactly one spot on a modular board where the Cryptid must be. There is, by the way, so many variations on the board arrangement and the hints that every game is very unique. Anyway, on your turn, you can do one of two things. You can either ask one other person, can it live here? Pointing to the board. Can it live right there? And that person can say yes or no. If they say no, they're going to put a cube there. That cube serves as a reminder that the Cryptid can't live there. If they say yes, they're going to put a disc there. Now, after that, your turn is over. The next person gets a turn. The only extra piece there is that if they do place a cube, you have to respond in kind and place a cube somewhere else. That's the get a little information, give a little information aspect of the game. The other action you can do on your turn is you can just announce where you're going to search. You can take one of your circular discs, you can put it on the board and say, I am searching here. And then in turn order, everyone responds by placing either a disc or a cube in the same spot. If they place a cube, it just stops. But if every player places a disc, then you have found the Cryptid and the game ends immediately. That's all. Cubes, discs, asking people, can it live here, or I search there. That's all there is to the game. The elegance, the pieces, even the theme, like even the idea that you're researchers and you're trying to gain notoriety only for yourself, but you need to expose a little information. It lends itself so well to the gameplay. So I think Cryptid is just brilliant. It's something that everyone is going to understand immediately. There is a need for some practice though, because you can definitely get better at figuring out the puzzle faster because you do know what kinds of hints that people have. So as you familiarize yourself with the kinds of hints, you can like make assumptions a little faster, but it's not going to stop first-time players from really getting in there and engaging the strategy. So those are my top 5 games that are thematic easy to explain, and first-time players can quickly engage the strategy. Before you go, if there's a game on this list that you feel like I omitted, if there's something that's like staring you in the face and say, why didn't he name this game? Let me know in the comments. Like, tell me, please, because here's what I do. I read those comments, and then what I do is I usually check out the game. If I'm not familiar with it already, I read the rules, and if the game is like legit, then I buy a copy for myself, I play a copy, and then I make a video about it. In fact, I recently just did that, or I guess at the time I'm filming this, I will soon do that with the family list that I have. I just ordered 6 games that viewers recommended, and I'm going to be making a video about it. You can check that out. But yeah, please, let me know. I'm really interested in what other people on YouTube are playing, what they like as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you stick around for more content from me, and you guys take care. Bye-bye.